Okay, so the spring housing market for 2026, it's like we're getting two completely different stories at the exact same time. On one hand, you've got doom and gloom, rising rates, economic fear. But on the other, you're hearing about the surprising opportunity for buyers. So what's the real story? Well, let's figure that out together.
All right, so maybe you're thinking about buying a home this spring, and you're seeing signals that are just all over the place. Rates are up, the economy feels, well, shaky, but then you're also hearing that this might be the best time for buyers in years. Which one is it? It feels totally contradictory, I know, but stick with me because I promise by the end of this, it's all going to make sense.
First up, let's tackle the story you're probably hearing the most about. These are the headwinds, all the negative stuff that's creating the storm of anxiety for pretty much anyone even thinking about looking for a house right now. It's become this frustrating new tradition, hasn't it? Just as the spring buying season is supposed to be kicking off, boom, mortgage rates spike. And it's not just your imagination. We've seen this exact same pattern play out every single spring since 2022. And yep, 2026 is no exception. Here we go again.
And while this year's number is a big one, 6.43%. As of mid-March, that was the high for 2026 for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. For a lot of buyers, crossing that 6% line isn't just a psychological thing. It's a real financial wall. It directly hits your monthly payment, and it can really crush your buying power.
And it's not just the mortgage rate, right? There's this whole cloud of economic jitters hanging over everything. We're talking about surging oil prices. We're talking about stubborn fears over inflation. It all creates this recipe for anxiety that feels an awful lot like what we went through last year. And look, this isn't just some vague feeling people have. Economists are pointing right at it. Asad Khan, who's a senior economist at Redfin, he puts it really plainly. He says, the war in Iran, skyrocketing gas prices, and other economic jitters are making homebuyers nervous. It's that exact combination that makes people want to just hit the brakes. And we can see the direct impact of all that nervousness right here in the data. I mean, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association, overall mortgage activity dropped almost 11% in just a single week. And the biggest driver of that drop? A 19% plunge in refinance applications. Homeowners are clearly getting spooked. But, okay, hold on, because right as that gloomy picture comes into focus, the story just completely flips. At the very same time all this bad news is hitting the headlines, there's this powerful silver lining emerging. It's a surprise shift, and it's tilting the market back in favor of buyers. And this really gets to the heart of the contradiction. On one side, you have those headwinds we just talked about, rising rates and a whole lot of fear. But on the other side, you've got these powerful tailwinds pushing back, falling prices and more choice. So now let's break down those tailwinds. Hey, remember that nearly 11% drop in mortgage activity we just saw? Well, if you dig into that data, there's something fascinating buried in there. The purchase index, which tracks only the applications to actually buy a home, it went up by 1%. So what does that tell us? It seems that really determined buyers, a lot of them using FHA and VA loans, they're still pushing forward. And right here, this is the central paradox of the whole 2026 spring market. The very same fear that's pushing some buyers to the sidelines is creating the opportunity for those who decide to stay in the game. It's simple. Less competition means more power for you if you're one of the buyers who's left. So how much more power are we really talking about? Well, look at this number, 66 days. In February, that's how long the typical home sat on the market. That is the slowest pace we've seen in a decade. So what does that mean for you? It's simple. You have time. You can actually breathe. That frantic pressure to make a decision in 5 minutes, it's finally starting to fade. And maybe this is the clearest sign of all that the power has shifted. The typical home in February actually sold for 1.8% below its asking price. I mean, think about it. After years of those crazy, insane bidding wars where homes went for way over asking, the pendulum has finally swung back. Negotiation, it is officially back on the table. This shift is so big, so significant, that experts like Mark Fleming over at First American are making some really bold calls. He's not just saying it's a better market. No, he's calling it potentially the most buyer-friendly spring in years. That's a pretty powerful forecast. And it's not just talk. We're seeing real signs of life, these little green shoots popping up that support all this optimism.
People are moving from just thinking about it to actually doing something. Redfin data shows home touring is up by a lot. Google searches for homes for sale are the highest they've been since last summer. And this one's crucial. More sellers are finally starting to list their homes.
And this isn't just data points, you know? This is what agents are seeing on the ground every single day. This quote from Barb Cooper, an agent, just sums it up perfectly. It's a basic supply and demand thing. With more sellers than buyers, the power shifts, and that gives you a real chance to find the right home, not just settle for any home.
So we've got these two totally opposite stories playing out at the same time. You've got this storm of headwinds, but also this silver lining of opportunity. The big question is, what in the world does this actually mean for you if you're trying to buy a house? How do you even navigate this?
Well, it all comes down to what you could call a new affordability equation. Look, yeah, higher mortgage rates absolutely sting. There's no getting around that. But that pain is being offset by three really critical things. Home prices are flat, household incomes are rising, and there are more homes to choose from. That combination is changing the very definition of what's affordable in 2026. So let's just map this out for a second. Think of these four forces shaping your home search. Okay, first, higher rates are constraining your budget, but flat prices are giving you some stability. At the same time, your rising income is actually increasing your buying power. And finally, more listings are creating more choice. It's all about how these four things balance out for you and your specific situation. Okay, so if there is one single thing to take away from all of this, it is this. The spring 2026 market has finally shifted from one of desperation to one of negotiation. The days of waiving every inspection and just throwing money at a house to beat 10 other offers, those days are fading. This is now a market of patience, of strategy, and of opportunity, especially if you're a well-informed buyer. The story of this housing market isn't one simple story. It's two, and they're happening at the exact same time. It's confusing, yeah, but it's also packed with potential. So the real question isn't whether it's a good or a bad market overall. The question is, now that you understand these dual forces at play, in a market of mixed signals, where will you find your opportunity?